Welcome back, everybody. We're going to make the kitty disappear. Abracadabra. Okay, so the kitty has disappeared. So as you notice, we have two boxes here. This was not the way it was planned. I actually thought they were going to come on 2 different days. I think this happened to me one other time. And who can argue? New Guitar Day times 2. So that's what we've got. These are two used guitars from Pro Audio Star. The first box that's closest to us is a Squier 50s Stratocaster. The one that's further away from us is a Squier Paranormal Cyclone. So I just want to pull them out of the box real quick just to see what's what. So we're just going to dive right into this. As the case with the other guitars, the staples have been popped. I'm not sure why that is. Again, I have theories and I have questions and not really sure how that works. This is the front of the box. I've had good success pulling these out from the bottom down, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And we've got a little bit of exploded styrofoam, which always tells me that there's been a bit of a Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Hopefully no issues with the guitar. You never know. Again, I am pretty impressed with at least the Classic Vibes get the extra inner box. You'll see on this one won't have any such luck. This does look factory packed, but as I pointed out in my other video, if you work in a guitar warehouse, they probably know what factory pack looks like. For some reason, this isn't underneath the guitar like it should be. This thing definitely exploded. Let's just take a closer look, just in case there is some damage. So, this is definitely, see, that's the problem with this, is you've got this movement. And as we know, in the world of guitars, movement is what you don't want. And what's strange is that the first Telecaster that I got was absolutely solid as a rock. No movement whatsoever. So I'm not sure why this one is not given the same tight fit. You can see that this also suffered the fate of the other Stratocaster. The strap button punched a hole. Again, this looks factory packed, but you just really never know. This will be my second used guitar. I'm just going to pull it out of the shroud really quick. The shroud has definitely seen some action, as it were. So who knows? I can't imagine that they're like getting that many guitars back that are bad to have all these used guitars. Oh boy, this thing is definitely got that pink tint to it, which I sort of wanted. I mean, the wood shines right through this. This is a translucent finish, but yeah, I can see where some people just go, wow, that thing is really pink. And works for me. I was sort of hoping for a pinky guitar. Don't ask me why, I guess real men like pink. So, take this off. You can definitely see that it's like a 3-piece body. Which, you know, at the end of the day, it's going to be all about playability. So we're just going to do our real quick fret ends. Feel very nice. I think they did a nice job on that. It's got that really classic vibe orange tint on the neck and the headstock. It's sort of wild looking. I mean, it's definitely its own beast. You can see that the color doesn't, on the back, the color doesn't quite grab as good on all the pieces of wood. Let's see what the date of inspection on this is. It was inspected on the second day of January. Okay, so we're just going to put this in a stand. Again, one more quick. I see no neck pocket crack on that side. I see none on this side. Seems to have survived its trip in one piece. I don't see any smudges on it. I mean, again, as far as I can tell, it's a brand new guitar. So the playability will be what matters more than anything, and we'll check that out. So we're going to dive right into number 2. And our experience on the more inexpensive guitars is they do not have the same level of protection. Usually there's just a little piece of cardboard on the top, a little piece of cardboard on the bottom, and in between is the guitar. And I believe that's what we're going to get here. Yeah, so that's what we've got on the top. It has its, you can feel it, shoved down in there. Now this looks like it has more potential for actually having been out of the box just based on the tape right there. So now a curious thing about this guitar is I've seen multiple listings. Some show what they call a pearl white, and some show what they call a polar white. And I can already see that this is more of the creamy, which is what I was hoping for. I didn't really want a pure white guitar. So this definitely looks more, I guess the pearl is, would be better described as a, like Olympic white, has more of a cream tone to it, whereas a polar white is like pure white. Yes, and this has that more of that creamy. And yes, I can see the pearl essence in there, for sure. Frets, not immediate, feel actually pretty good. I see no neck pocket crack there. I see no neck pocket crack there. A little bit of, it does have a ding in the back, which again, for the price, I'm not going to worry about it. That's probably a factory ding. So this does seem to, yeah, this one may be considered a little more used. I see a little bit of, who knows? Never really know. For the price, you can't beat it. This was $199. That's the price of an Affinity. So, and there's some interesting, like, it comes right off. So whatever it was, like grease pencil. So overall, just a 2-minute inspection for the camera. The Laurel fretboard looks really good. Yeah, the neck looks like a piece of maple. So, really playability is going to be what it's all about. And again, there was no inspection tag. So, this one I'm going to guess was actually a used guitar, which, you know, that's what they sold it as, so I'm not crying. Okay, well, I'm going to have some lunch. We'll be back with more impressions. But the initial impression is, woohoo! Looks good. Go over here and take one more look. This is the 50s Strat. This is the Cyclone. We'll be back. Welcome back, everybody. This is the conclusion of the Devil New Guitar Day episode. It is October the 9th, 2022. It's a little sooner than I usually do this. Usually I let a couple of weeks, if not 3 or 4 weeks, go by to play the guitars, but I have been on a bit of a binge, and another new guitar is coming in tomorrow, so I thought I would share my thoughts about these two fine guitars. Again, I've only had them for 5 days, but I've played them for the last 5 days. And here's my thoughts. In my experience, you can't go wrong with Classic Vibe. For the price, the value's there. I'm not sure if I love this finish. It's really interesting that they call this blonde white, and yet there's clearly a tint of pink in it, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It actually is what I would consider to be a true shell pink. Many of the guitars they put out with shell pink look more like Pepto-Bismol. Very dramatic pink, which is not my taste at all. I would call this a blush pink, just very light. And again, I'm guessing it was on purpose. You can see on this guitar, you can definitely see at least 2 of the 3 pieces. The paint didn't quite saturate the same. And again, some would find that absolutely ugly. I find it okay. Bottom line is, I don't spend much time looking at my guitars. I spend time playing them, and this guitar plays great, sounds great, feels great. The fit and the finish is top-notch. And again, Pro Audio Star in Brooklyn, New York is just having an absolute blowout sale on these. And they're calling them used, but I emailed the guy and he sort of let the cat out of the bag that these are basically what they're calling open box. And of the 4 guitars that I've received thus far, only one, and that would be the Cyclone, would actually be considered a used guitar in my opinion, because the film was taken off the pickups and the pick guard, and the Squier Play sticker was gone. So my feeling is this guitar was definitely used, but that's what they advertised it as. Otherwise it's in pristine condition. Has a tiny, tiny little blemish on the back, which they're going to discount me a little bit for, which I think is really nice. So anyways, back to the Classic Vibe. It's a great guitar. I mean, I've owned Fenders. At this point in my life, I would never spend the money for a Made in America or even a Made in Mexico Fender, because I don't care at all about what it says on the headstock. And for someone who's just at home playing and having a good time, this guitar is more than you would ever need. It's got the feel, it's got the tone, and that's saying a lot considering it still has the factory strings on it. Probably will sound even better. It was set up really nice from the factory, maybe not to an individual taste, because that's really personal, but I've noticed the one consistent thing I've noticed is that the 4 guitars I've gotten thus far, the necks are incredibly straight, so I've taken the truss rod and backed it off about a 1/4 turn to give them a little more relief. The action's a little high. Again, at some point I may or may not lower it. I'm not a speed player, so the action doesn't really matter to me. So, you know, out of 5 stars, I give the Classic Vibe 5 stars. Good quality guitar. Feels good. I think this one weighed in at about 7.8 pounds, which is a nice weight for a Stratocaster, so very good. So now we move on to the Cyclone, the Paranormal Cyclone. The first Paranormal that I've owned. I have another one on its way, which we will see in the coming days. My impressions on this guitar, it's a little brittle sounding. I could only get a sound that I enjoyed out of the neck pickup. The bridge pickup is just really ice picky, which again, if that's what you want, it's there for you. The combination of the switches, for those who aren't familiar, it's just on and off switches for each pickup. So you get a total of 7 combinations. You can have all 3 on at one time, bridge in the neck, bridge in the middle, neck in the middle, neck and bridge. So it does offer some tone possibilities. It's a beautiful guitar. The color is a very, very, very delicate metal flake. You don't even really see it till you get really close. But it looks really nice with the tortoise pickguard or the faux tortoise pickguard or whatever people are calling it. Again, I'm more than impressed with the Indian Laurel fretboards. As I've said countless times, in 2019 when they first came out, they were just awful looking. So they must have heard people's complaints and they did something, whether it's they chose a darker wood or they started dyeing them, I don't know, but the look and the feel is just really close to rosewood, so it's not a big deal to me at all. So again, the guitar feels good. This guitar probably weighs about 7 pounds, which is light but not too light. Gloss neck on it, not a problem for me. I don't have really sweaty hands, so I don't really have any issues with that. The potentiometers seem to work fine. I did lower the pickups a little to try and take a little of the harshness out, and it didn't seem to really do much. But again, when you take some time with your amplifier, and I'm just using a little Fender, practice amp, so who knows what this would sound like through a real amp, through a tube amp or something that has some punch behind it. My amp's an LT25, which is a modeling amp, and it works good. And again, for home use, I couldn't ask for anything more. Another comment about the Classic Vibe. I had one of these a few years back, and my initial reaction was I didn't like it, and I didn't like it because I didn't like the gloss fingerboard. I don't mind the gloss on the back of the neck, but I just didn't like the gloss fingerboard, and I didn't keep that guitar for very long. So when I pulled this guitar out of the box and started playing it, I had that same reaction. I much prefer either a dark rosewood, Indian Laurel, Pau Ferro, ebony, or on my bullets with maple fingerboards, they have a satin finish, which I really like. But it reminded me of something that's, very true. What you're not used to, you generally don't like. So when you get used to something, you get used to it, you like it, it's comfortable, it's like an old pair of shoes or an old pair of jeans, and then someone gives you something new that's different, and your first reaction is, I don't like it. But I've been playing this guitar for the last 5 days, and the truth of the matter is I can get used to almost anything. And as I played this guitar, I found, wow, there's things to be said about a gloss fingerboard. When you're doing bends or you're sliding up, your finger tends to be a little faster. So I started getting used to it, and I started thinking, wow, this isn't that bad. And of course, a lot of people actually prefer a gloss fingerboard and don't like a satin or a dark wood fingerboard. So again, preference is a very personal thing. Learning what you like is critical to getting what you want. So every time you buy a guitar, it's important to pay attention to what it is you like about it and don't like about it. It's important to give it some time to see if you do get used to things, if you grow accustomed. The neck on the Cyclone, some would say it's a skinny neck. I like skinny necks. I've got a Epiphone Les Paul Lazarus. It's got a nice beefy neck. I like beefy necks, but when I go from one to the other real quick, there's that period of adjustment. It's like, maybe I don't like this that much. And then I settle in and I get used to it. Same with Radius. The Gibson guitars that I have all have flatter fretboards, 12-inch Radius, and these are 9.5. It's been 40 years since I played a Fender with a 7.5, so I don't even remember what that felt like. But I'm sure I'd get used to that as well. So, it's just some advice. You can take my advice, you can throw it out the window, that would be your preference. But whatever you get used to tends to be what you like and what you enjoy and your ears adjust to, which is why I would never get into swapping pickups and potentiometers, and because I don't even know what sound I'm really looking for, I wouldn't know it till I found it, and that can be a rabbit hole that has absolutely no end. So, creating your own sound, getting used to your own sound, liking your own sound. When you're trying to chase tones that you're hearing on a record, you're first of all hearing an incredibly professional guitar player. You're hearing him or her play through probably top-of-the-line equipment, being recorded in a top-of-the-line studio. You have no idea how many double tracks they're doing with effects and compression, and so to trying to get that sound could really just lead to a lot of disappointment. And at the end of the day, it's really your heart and soul that you want to bring through with your music. And if you do that, you can get away with almost anything. Because if you're achieving that goal, people aren't really paying attention to the guitar the way that you think that they would be. They're feeling your music, and if you can do that magic thing, catching the lightning in the bottle and put feeling into your music, then you're where you want to be. So I think that's about all I have to say. Again, I think I had a while back one other double guitar day. I don't like them. It's just too many guitars at once. I like one guitar. I like to settle in. The guitar coming tomorrow will just be a single guitar, so I'll have all day long to just play with it and start the video, and probably won't post it for another week or two. But anyways, highly recommend these guitars. If I had to choose between the two, I'd keep the Classic Vibe, just because it's more to my liking. But again, I'm getting to know the Cyclone, and it certainly has qualities to it that I appreciate. I certainly like the smaller body. It's not as thick. I like the shape of it. Love contours. It's probably the number one reason why I'm going to get rid of my Les Paul. Les Paul is just very much like a Telecaster, and then when it was made, they weren't thinking in terms of comfort. Les Pauls are just very, it's a big chunk of wood. Sounds great, looks great, just doesn't feel the way that I would hope. And at 9 pounds, my Les Paul is definitely a chunk, even though some people would say, hey, that's a light Les Paul, because some Les Pauls are 10, 11, 12 pounds. So anyways, as we say goodbye, again, October the 9th, 2022, we're coming to the end of the pleasant weather up here in Montana. Winter is just around the corner. Sometimes it hits with a vengeance early on. Sometimes we get a bit of an Indian summer. So very pleasant today, 72 degrees, blue skies, gentle breeze blowing outside. Things will not remain this way for very long. So once again, I appreciate anyone and everyone who stops by, who joins me for what appears to be the never-ending odyssey of New Guitar Day. I mean, a month ago I was thinking, I don't think I'm going to get any more guitars. I'm getting my 5th one tomorrow in a month, and there's a 6th one in my cart. The good news is that the most expensive one was $279. The others were, Classic Vibe is $249. I got the Cyclone under the wire for $199. They put them back up to $279. But if you are interested in getting a Squier, they may have other guitar deals going, but they're definitely blowing out the Squiers. And I think they saw the writing on the wall. I know when the Paranormal series came out, I believe in 2020, they were $350. Then they popped them up to $400. Then they optimistically went to $449. And most retailers have already brought them back to $399. And they're probably having trouble selling them at that. Because again, I do believe that if not yet, there very soon is going to be a glut of guitars. And the prices are going to drop. So, who's to say how that works out with the economy being wacky and the uncertainty of the world. My suggestion to everyone, my simple philosophy newly found is, we are merely a speck of dust on a grain of sand in an infinite universe. And while it must mean something, I'm not really sure what it does mean. So have fun, love your loved ones, enjoy your life, play your guitar like there's no tomorrow, and there you go. May the force be with you. Thank you very much.